every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Spreaker.com. It's time for
Rastafari Revelation, a 1-hour talk show produced and presented by members of the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and the Arts.
Coming to you live from the United Kingdom with news, views, reviews, previews, and interviews exploring the Rastafari Movement, Rastafari Revelation, produced and presented by members of the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and the Arts, in collaboration with www.spreaker.com, the World Wide Web's
#1 podcasting platform. Rastafari Revelation. Okay, Empress Temple, we're back here with part 2 of the first ever episode of Rastafari Revelation here on Spreaker.com on the 25th anniversary of the founding of the African Union, and also the first anniversary of the founding of the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and the Arts. Empress Tempe, we still have some matters to discuss. Tell our listeners what you have in mind.
All right. Thank you, Ross Albert. And you know, we're just excited. We've got so many episodes to come, so we'll talk as we go. But for this second part, all of the viewers out there, if you want to hear anything or know anything, just drop us a line on our Facebook page. But right now, with this second part, Ross Albert, I'd like for you to kind of go into what exactly is Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and Arts. What gave you the vision? Why was it started? And the importance of it, the missions. Reflect on what you see has happened this past year, and what is it that you entail or wish that could happen for the next year, and touch base on African Liberation Day.
Yeah, well, Rastafari live. What I'm saying is this: like all my inspirations over my lifetime, I seem to be inspired by His Imperial Majesty about things I need to do, being a servant of His Majesty, being one who is under His direct influence. Last year, May 25th, somehow the inspiration came to me that we need to establish an organization. It could be virtual, it could be actual, it could be a non-profit organization, it could be a company, it could be, just a group of friends coming together to discuss how we can provide the framework within Rastafarians can discuss, relevant issues towards the building of the Rastafari movement and also the Rastafari country. That is what Rastafarians have as their objective. When we speak about repatriation back to Africa, we're in fact saying that we need to go back to that first state of mind and of presence where we were no longer slaves. We were in our own communities with our own culture, our own language, our own forms of writing, our own forms of thinking, our own models of villages and cities. We didn't have to compare it with anybody outside, any foreigners. So Rastafarians have a challenge that we need to continue to create on what the founding fathers of Rastafari of the Rastafari movement started. And what I'm saying is that Rastafari in the beginning was a direct answer to what the evangelists saw as the imposition of a foreign culture on the African slaves. And let me explain. Number one, because we were taken from Africa, if you look now over the Caribbean, over Latin America, in North America, you have people of black skin, of African heritage, who know nothing about the African heritage, who speak not one African language, and in every shape and form are just Europeans with black skin. Rastafarians see themselves as the architect of a new type of African, the African who is in the diaspora. And we began by starting to reinterpret the Holy Bible, because as you know, the Holy Bible was commissioned by King James in 1611, and we don't know what the original text had in it, but all we know that in this revised edition of the Holy Bible, in it we found references to Ethiopia, we found references to the kingdom of Ethiopia in River Nile, and in other instances that are in the Bible. And we saw to ourselves that they must have been speaking about a non-European person, So the early Rastafarian community went through a process of readapting whatever they found that was good to use in the world at that time, including the Bible. The early Rastafari movement adopted drums and the drumming from the early African heritage that we knew of. We also adapted, we also started to change the meaning of certain English words by having what we call the Iaric language. The Iaric language are Rastafarian words that begin with I. Like for instance, instead of saying we created this jargon of I and I, which means to explain that within me and within you is the same I of His Imperial Majesty I. His Imperial Majesty I is really, in literal terms, it means His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I the First, which was his first title that he took on in 1930 when he became Emperor of Ethiopia. So the I that Rastafari refers to at the end of his title is in fact the first, which was a great example of Rastafarians using the intuition to use any instances of I in very positive forms. So therefore you have I and I, you have I man, you have Ethiopia instead of Ethiopia, you have Einity instead of unity, So that was one of the unique things of Rastafari that could separate the Rastafari movement from just being another group of Caribbean men and women just trying to be different. So we sought to try and change the language a little bit. We also began to grow dreadlocks, because as a slave, they would shave your head every so often, and you are not allowed to grow dreadlocks, okay? And that means to have your hair shoulder length, Before you could only believe that it was only a white person, a white man, or white woman, or even an Indian that could have their hair shoulder length. They said that our hair was too kinky, our hair was too rough. It had to be, brushed or combed, but it could never go long. Rastafari proved to them that Rastafarians' hair can grow beyond shoulder length, wavelength, knee length, and touching the ground. You see? So that gave us a new identity. Another aspect of Rastafari that was adopted was the use of the holy herb, because Rastafarians identified the holy herb from the Bible as being the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Now, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge, as known as herb or marijuana or ganja or various other names in the Babylon, was used by East Indian indentured servants who came across to Jamaica during the emancipation or the amelioration of slaves, and they used herb. They also used herb in Trinidad, and Africans also began to use herb, on the slavery and plantations like a form of tobacco. You see, but the difference between tobacco and the herb is that the herb gives you inspiration and insight into life and its problems, and therefore you're able to create this new identity for yourself. The other aspect that the Rastafari Alliance on Science and Technology is about, if I might, Tempe, just look at our mission statement that's on Facebook. It says that this is a study group working towards the establishment of an educational institution of excellence. Okay, the mission: the establishment of a database of upright hydrant and cistern in each country. Lawyers, doctors, inventors, tradesmen, accountants, musicians, authors, bakers, etc. And also the formation of a non-profit organization to raise funds to be used to support I&I in the furtherance of I&I works. We also have on our agenda for the digitization of the works of Rastafari in print, film, and sound for the purposes of archiving I&I story. And I explained a little bit more about why we have these objectives. Also, we need to support our elders in Shashamani. Shashamani being this the land grant that was given to I&I who live in the West to come to Ethiopia because as a reward for our support of Its Imperial Majesty during the Italian invasion. And also we need to have put in place a framework where Rastafarians can do further research into African story and African history. We also need to provide for our children resource centers, libraries, and sport facilities, and studios, art studios, and music studios. We also need to have other infrastructure, not only in Jamaica or Dominica or wherever Rastafarians are, but also, most importantly, in Ethiopia, where there's a great need for Rastafarian children to have their own structures in place. And also, finally, before I let you come in there, Tempe, one of our major objectives is the restoration of the monarchy in Ethiopia. For too long now, since 1975, Ethiopia has been without its true leader. And when you think about the destruction that has created in Ethiopia's heritage, I just wonder how Ethiopians can live with themselves. If you read the Kibra Nagast, that is one of the holy books of Ethiopia, the emperor and the church, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, are one and the same. They belong to the head of Ethiopian society. So if you cut off the emperor's lineage, which comes from the line of from the lineage of Solomon and Sheba, Ethiopia right now is running without true leadership, even if they've imposed a democratic government. But where is the royal lineage? The present leaders don't have royal blood coursing through their veins. They don't have royal wisdom, divine inspiration. We'll talk more about that as we go along, about what His Imperial Majesty had in mind for Ethiopia and what he put in place. When His Imperial Majesty came to power and was coronated in 1930, there were no schools in Ethiopia, there were no roads, there was no electricity. There was more poverty than in 1974 when he had the uprising. His Imperial Majesty sought the very best advice from advisors from all around the world, and to create the first constitution of Ethiopia. For thousands of years, Ethiopia was ruled by its emperors without a constitution. The people had no say into any part of the political life of Ethiopia. He introduced that. He introduced, like I said, education. He introduced the idea of universities. Many of Ethiopians were sent to universities overseas through the assistance and the kindness and generosity of His Imperial Majesty. And what did they do? They came back to Ethiopia with these high ideals of what they have seen in democratic countries, and they wanted to have control of Ethiopia like they saw students doing in other countries, and began the revolution. And that revolution was hijacked by the Ethiopian army, which resulted in the overthrow of His Imperial Majesty and the murder of many of His Imperial Majesty's household. But we'll talk more about that in the future. But just to get back to your initial question about what Rastafari stands for, the Rasta acronym means the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology and the Arts. And what we hope to do is to form an umbrella where organizations, Rastafarian organizations and individuals all over can come in one database and have one platform where we can discuss these high ideals. It's very academic. It's an academic exercise. It's not about just Rastaman coming together and talking. This is about scientific research, scientific documentation, and planning for the future, long-term planning and evaluation, and planning and evaluation. You know, because I myself, being a undergraduate of the Open University, I'm studying computing and information technology, and I'm hoping to go on to do my master's and my doctorate in that field. This is my brainchild. This is what I want to bring to the world. This is the new knowledge that I'm expecting to be able to do, to leave as my legacy and my contribution to the Rastafarian movement.
Thank you, Ross Albert. And I'm sure it'll be soon for a commercial break. But I'd like to thank you, and I know I speak on behalf of all our viewers, for thanking you for enlightening us with your opinions and your views and your vision and your legacy that you want to leave. Let me say that many blessings and many wishes to you, because had it not been for you, I wouldn't be sitting here. So you've enlightened me by choice of something that's part of our legacy and our history. Now, you touched base on the missions and some points that I took notes on. I thank you for bringing up the holy herb. And I'm very proud to tell you, coming from the United States, coming from America, coming from a whole different concept, where it's a very controversial concept that you and listeners will know, but from an intellectual point of view, as well as a medical point of view in my career, I do know you're telling the truth. But there are some Rastafarians, as myself, I'd like to point out, who does not use the holy herb and for inspiration and insight. So what I'm getting from you, and I'd like for you to elaborate, because I have two main questions that you touched base on, and I know it's time for commercial break. When we come back, I'd like for you to...
what I'm just want to interrupt you there to say is that the thing with the herb, you know, like I said, Rastafari has been kind of experimenting with this whole anti-Babylonian lifestyle, trying to answer the concerns that confronted the early Rastafarians, the confusion over who am I, the confusion over what is this language am I speaking. We sought to change that around. Now the thing with the herb is not just for smoking.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Herb is a natural plant with lots and many uses. So what the Rastafarians need to do, as scientists, whoever is studying science and biology and physics, you know, like I told you, Rasta, when I say Rasta, I'm talking about the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology and the Arts. We want to gather academics, we want to gather very intelligent people who have either studied on their own or through the system itself. Look for the uses within marijuana. You know, how can we address, first of all, the question of legalization? How can you justify legalization to the Babylon system? Secondly, how can you use the ingredients, the active ingredients in marijuana in other uses? We know that marijuana can be used to make paper, it can be used to make oils, it can be used to make paint and varnish. Does the Rastafari movement have any manufacturing concerns that are doing that with the herb? No. That is one of the areas Rastafari needs to do. If marijuana is the tree of life, let us put together manufacturing concerns that can manufacture the various products out of the herb. Show the Babylon people that we not just want to get high or to use it for sacramental purposes, but we want to take this tree of life and let it be used in all its forms. And we have the technologies and we have the know-how how to use the herb to produce various things for the good of humanity.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because I have a degree in natural science. I concentrated in biology and chemistry and physics. And I know the prevalence and the importance of what you just said. And for too long, let me tell you, and you mentioned the word Babylon. Well, let me tell you something. In my opinion, that has got to happen for people to recognize and accept Rastafari for the importance that it represents, and not just the negative connotation that has been exposed to it. There's a whole health issue. You see, I know where the holy herb marijuana is used to treat cancer. It's used in certain states now that it is legalized. But I'd like for you to talk, and I'm sure we'll talk on another episode. You've got so many other people that have abused that usage, in a sense. And it's become so commercial, and that's a whole different story. But like you say, that has got to happen. And by having Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and Arts, and sharing these concepts and sharing these visions, this is a great start and a continuation. Also, I don't want to divert from what you just said, and we will come back to that, but I'd like for you to talk about, with the Facebook page, our page that has been exposed for this whole year, we have some beautiful stats. We've got 183 likes from a very, very diverse community of people that are interested in what you just shared and what it's all about. And let me tell you, I am amazed, because I never realized that you have so many different people from different walks of life. And now it seems that Rastafari is no longer a local community. It's a global, virtual world. And so we've got to open up, and we've got to become current. We've got to become to the point where people will listen to you and hear you and come on board and understand. Now, I have two questions that I'd like for you to share. Number one, is it time for a commercial break?
Well, actually, it's time for the end of the program. We're going to have to leave those two questions for next week.
I'm just getting wound up and excited.
Yeah, for next week's podcast. And we have to come to an end within the next 6 minutes. So what we're going to do, let's just come in with our promotion, tell people what this program is all about and where they can find it, and then we'll be right back with our closing remarks.
And we'd like to tell the viewers out there to continue celebrating African Liberation Day, which is today, May 25th. Every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Spreaker.com. It's time for
Rastafari Revelation, a 1-hour talk show produced and presented by members of the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and the Arts.
Coming to you live from the United Kingdom with news, views, reviews, previews, and interviews exploring the Rastafari Movement. Rastafari Revelation, produced and presented by members of the Rastafari Alliance for Science, Technology, and the Arts, in collaboration with www.spreaker.com, the World Wide Web's
#1 podcasting platform. Okay, so there you heard it. Our first, actually, this is part 2 of episode 1 of Rastafari Revelation. We hope that you enjoyed our discussion, and we've just a few minutes left for us to discuss. To close this first episode, Tempe, perhaps you'd like to lead off with your closing remarks.
All right, thank you, Ross Albert. Well, my closing remarks are very brief. This has been an exhilarating 2-part series. We hope that it's been enlightening to our viewers. We'd like for you to find a way and tell us what you think. And like I say, what we're just discussing what we feel in our own opinions right now. And that's what it's all about. It's about iron sharpening iron, and it's about a community like we'd like to reach out. But I'd like to thank you, Ross Albert, for bringing your vision to life and sharing it and continuing it. And that's what it's all about, where people can make their own decisions and they can look at Rastafari not from a negative connotation or negative light, but from the important historical being and entity that it is. And thank you for allowing me to be on the program and sharing what I feel.
Okay, Empress Tempe, thank you very much for those remarks. And it just leaves me to sign off here. We're going to leave you with Ethiopia Calling. Dig the lyrics, dig the program, give us a feedback on Facebook or wherever you're getting this message. We have a number of social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spreaker itself, SoundCloud, Google, Tumblr, live stream. No matter where you're hearing this podcast, let us know what you think and what ideas you want to discuss. We'll be back with next week Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. for another edition. So from me, it's let Jah be your guide and let him be your inspiration. One love to each and everybody.
And the same thing from me. One love and Jah Rastafari. And we thank you, Jah.
Whoa. Ethiopia calling. Yeah. My people come out of Babylon. I people come out of Babylon. Yeah. Do like Ras Carpenter, yeah. He came and he showed us the way. Come. Get out of Babylon, yeah. Dominica is a mess. Crime and violence every day. They wanna blame Rastafari, but I know Babylon must pay. Come out of Babylon, because Dominica is a mess, and Babylon is a mess. Rastafari got to go, we got to go, yeah. Raskabinda, you show I the way. Don't waste time in a Babylon city. Come and build up Shashamani, yeah. Shashamani is waiting. Shashamani is waiting.